friends. In a grim, ravaged world where hope has faded and shadows hide nightmarish secrets, one man, Bannon, dares to challenge the abyss to find salvation, or lose himself forever. At the start of the film, we learn that something horrific has recently struck the world. Now, a man named Bannon, caught in a torrential downpour, struggles to start his car, but it refuses to come to life. In despair, he screams at the cloud-covered heavens before collapsing, as if drained of all strength. Sometime later, he takes stock of his belongings. Water is running dangerously low, and Bannon finishes the last of it. He then pulls out his phone and rereads a conversation with a woman named Adele. She complains that someone is taking her away, refusing to let her stay. All exits are blocked, and no one explains what's happened. On top of that, her father is furious and threatens to kill him, but she still trusts Bannon. Bannon rummages through his backpack for food, but there's none left, and the water bottle is empty. However, he finds a plastic sheet and realizes it can shield him from the toxic rainwater. Covered by the sheet, Bannon leaves the car and makes his way to an abandoned building that looks like a dormitory. Inside, he tries to drink from a faucet, but the water is contaminated, and he's violently sick. Later, he searches the place for supplies. For hours, he sifts through piles of junk. At one point, glancing out a window, he spots a massive, spider-like creature on the horizon. In a nearby building, he sees a lit window with an old man peering out, but the light soon goes out, leaving Bannon alone again. Sometime later, he finds a single can of food, but can't open it without the right tools. Bannon presses on and discovers a man's corpse in the basement. Overcoming his disgust, he takes the man's gloves and finds a pistol and a walkie-talkie in his pocket. Though the walkie-talkie works, there's no signal. Suddenly, he notices numbers scrawled on the wall and realizes they're a radio frequency. Bannon tries to contact someone, but the walkie-talkie remains silent. Soon, he steps onto a dance floor with a disco ball overhead. Mesmerized by the flickering reflections, he even starts to sing. Then, in a flash of light, a terrifying ghost of a dark-haired girl appears. The frightened man stumbles, dropping his flashlight, but no one's there, and Bannon slowly calms down. He picks up the flashlight and checks the room, but it's completely empty. Suddenly, a man's voice crackles through the walkie-talkie, and Bannon responds immediately. Bannon explains that he saw the frequency numbers on the wall and admits he's alone and has been on the move for a long time. The stranger promises to stay in touch. Bannon describes the building where he found the writing, and the man quickly figures out his location. Hearing that Bannon found a can but can't open it, the stranger is surprised, noting it's odd not to carry at least a knife these days. He introduces himself as Damien and says he was recently in the same building where Bannon is hiding, but it's dangerous now, with screams and gunshots echoing from there. He advises Bannon to wait it out, and then the walkie-talkie cuts off. Left alone, Bannon sits by the wall and replays Adele's message. She mentions they're being evacuated west, urging him to hurry and find them. Bannon watches a video of a young boy, but suddenly looks away, as if seeing a man sitting nearby. It's a ghost from the past, warning him not to drink the rainwater. At that moment, Damien calls again, saying he'll come to Bannon's hideout. Bannon admits he has a car, but its battery is dead, and there's a blockade around. Damien confirms that soldiers are everywhere, but mentions a nearby hangar where a new battery might be found. Still, he adds that it's pointless, since Bannon can't escape anyway. Bannon peers outside, where rain still pours, and a red glow looms over the dead city, with what looks like a black tornado swirling. Suddenly, a woman's scream pierces the air. She begs for help, and Bannon, covered in plastic, ventures out into the rain. He scans the courtyard and spots a strange statue of a woman. He reaches out as if to check if it was the source of the scream, but another cry comes from a different direction. Remembering the pistol, Bannon draws it and heads toward the sound. In the beam of his flashlight, a grotesque creature with sharp teeth appears. Bannon bolts with the monster in pursuit. Later, he manages to hide, but he hears the horrific screams of people likely caught by the beast. Suddenly, fiery clouds swirl above him, and he finds himself in a twilight forest where a wolf emerges from the thicket. Nearby, Bannon sees an old man performing some ritual with figurines hanging on a bush. Then he feels a tooth fall from his mouth. As he examines it, a plant begins sprouting from it. Bannon opens his eyes and finds himself back in the basement. He gathers a few empty bottles, draining their meager remnants, then notices a puddle on the floor. After sniffing it, he drinks desperately. Somewhat recovered, he decides to move to another building. His path takes him through a garden, but the fruit, poisoned by the toxic rain, is inedible. He reaches a new hideout and tries again to open the can, but Damien's call interrupts him. Learning of the monster encounter, Damien warns him to hide from bloodsuckers that lure victims by mimicking human voices. Bannon admits he's hiding in a greenhouse and mentions the pistol he found, but doesn't know how to use. Damien guides him, and Bannon checks the gun's ammunition, but then a strange sound echoes, which Damien identifies as the voice of a giant. He signs off, and Bannon plays Adele's recordings again. She mentions his fight with his father, wondering why they always argued despite their love. At that moment, the ghostly man reappears, nearly snatching the phone from Bannon's hands. The walkie-talkie crackles to life, and Damien urges him to move. Bannon steps out into the rain and climbs a tree as gunshots ring out. A minute later, the sky lights up, and a helicopter flies overhead. Bannon hides in a building. He climbs a staircase and spots a guy armed with a screwdriver. Brandishing his pistol, Bannon orders him to drop it. The guy complies, but when Bannon demands his backpack, he resists. A shot rings out, hitting the guy in the leg. A scream echoes nearby, and Bannon flees, hiding. He freezes as a strange creature enters the room searching for him, but the wounded guy's cries draw it away. Bannon tries to escape again, but in the corridor, a man grabs him. It's his father. He leads Bannon to a shelter with a fire where they can warm up. His father asks about Bannon's sister and offers him food, which he accepts. The father regrets meeting on such an ill-fated night, saying the sky is falling, along with all the gods. It's useless to pray to them, as they're as hungry as humans. He says people raised the gods, and now the sky collapses due to disbelief. The father reminds Bannon to ask the cleanser to grant his wish when he finds him. He shows a nugget that makes him happy and reveals he's become a grandfather. Promising to show something, he steps away. Bannon pockets the nugget and leaves without waiting for his father, who returns with a box containing a woman's photo. Seeing his son gone, the old man weeps over the box. Meanwhile, Bannon finds a working battery in a workshop and tells Damien. He promises to meet him at the car soon. Bannon describes the car's location and heads there, but he hears the bloodsuckers' cries again. To distract them, he places a walkie-talkie in an empty bucket to amplify the sound and leaves it on. Running off, Bannon shouts into his walkie-talkie, luring the monsters to the noise. He races to the car, but the pursuit closes in. He drops the battery but makes it inside the car. Something leaps onto the car's roof, and Bannon hides under the seat. He hears screams, thinking his end is near, and pulls out the pistol. But a gunshot rings out, and blood stains the rain on the windshield. Damien arrives, picking up the battery, which is now leaking and useless. Bannon cries, but Damien says he knows a way out and will lead him. He guides Bannon to a basement, explaining a path to the forest. Damien will take another tunnel to distract the monsters. Bannon sets off, but his flashlight dies. Panicking as the bloodsucker's cries echo behind him, he runs toward sunlight and reaches the forest. He sprints forward, but is plunged into darkness. Nearby, soldiers' flashlights sweep the area. Bannon hides, waiting for them to clash with the monsters, then slips past. Suddenly, cries for help echo from the forest. Hiding behind a tree, he spots Damien, who signals him to stay quiet and follow. Dawn breaks as the men enter the forest. Damien dreams of catching a rabbit, as he hasn't eaten in ages. Leaving his rifle behind, he steps toward a bush, tempting Bannon to grab the weapon. But Bannon hears water and finds a river. He tries to drink, but it's toxic. Damien understands his disappointment, but urges him to keep moving. They pass rusted factories and crumbling buildings. At times, they spot giant spider-like figures roaming the earth, but manage to hide. Soon Damien catches a small animal, and they eat by a campfire. Bannon shares that he loved comics as a kid, which inspired his name. Damien tells a parable about a wolf wanting to become human, but needing to pay a price, even death. He suddenly asks about the pistol, but Bannon refuses to give it up. Morning comes. In a dream, Bannon hears Adele's voice and wakes, but no one's there. His phone, still on, falls apart in his hands, and Damien is gone. Bannon wanders the forest and sees the old man from his dream, realizing he's losing his mind. He's surrounded by visions. The boy, the ghost girl from the basement, the guy he shot. Bannon fires at the old man and flees, only to discover Damien is hunting him. A shootout ensues and Bannon loses. He collapses trying to crawl away, but Damien catches up and shoots again. Bleeding out, Bannon groans on the ground. Damien finds the pistol and the fallen tooth, pocketing them. He takes Bannon's water bottle, drinks the last of it, and apologizes, saying he had to learn who he meant to save. But Bannon is a parasite, while Damien fits this world and came to plant a seed. With that, Damien opens the can and eats, asking if Bannon knows who he is. He tosses out the nugget from Bannon's pocket, just a worthless rock, and at Bannon's request, throws him the can. Then he buries the tooth by Bannon's head and leaves, while Bannon lies on the ground. Suddenly his phone rings, and a woman's voice urges him to come to his father's house, where his friends and son are waiting. Bannon finds peace, and soon dies, staring at the sky. And that's it, friends. We've reached the end of Into the Abyss. Honestly, this movie left me disappointed. It's full of loose ends, a messy plot, and a story that never quite comes together. The dark atmosphere is there, sure, but it's not enough to keep you hooked. In my opinion, this recap is all you need. You won't miss much by skipping the film. Go watch something more coherent and gripping while I try to find something to wash this nonsense out of my head.